Shalom, brothers and sisters. Grace, mercy, and peace be unto you from Yahuwah the Father and Yahusha our Mashiach, his voice. Hear, O Yasharal, Yahuwah our mighty one is one Yahuwah. This is Brother David coming to you again to bring you Jubilees Chapter 6. Here's the question. How to determine the first month, Abib? The answer is in Jubilees chapter 6. The answer is in the book of Enoch. Who's looking at those books? Only the righteous race that shall come back to Yahuwah in the last days. When people come to my store and they're asking me questions about Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, they tell me the same thing. There's so many dates out there. Which one is it? When you look on the internet and you're looking for Passover and the starting date, guess who you're going to run into first? The Jews. They're going to put out their dates. Now, for all of the advanced users who've been with me for a while, they understand that the Jews last year added a 13th month, which is coming into this year also. So if they added a 13th month, they came in 1 month after the month of Abib. They said because the barley harvest was not ripe. I asked them, could you show me the statute in the Bible concerning this? Is there a statute in the Bible that tells you if the barley harvest does not come in ripe, then you have to add a 13th month? They're stumped. Remember, everything that we're carrying out as far as the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread is according to the law, and the law has attached to it statutes. It tells you how to carry out the law. If the statute doesn't exist to carry out the law, then you cannot change it from the imagination of your own mind. Can you? All right. The next people that you run into when you're looking on the internet, you're trying to find an alternative. Because we know that the Jews have practiced a lot of deception. So the first alternative that you find are the camps. They tell you that the year or the month starts from the full moon. They start their count from the 15th day of the month, in the middle of the month. Most people do not even understand what is happening. Do you know why? Because they're sheeple. Are you a sheeple? Sheeple just follow. They do no investigation. When someone tells you a date, they tell you that this is when you're supposed to carry out this function, this feast day, and you just follow it blindly, you're a sheeple. You have to listen to everyone, but investigate them also, don't you? We're trying to find the truth. Now, the people who we're speaking about, they don't use the book of Jubilees or the book of Enoch to find this truth. Let me tell you something else. The book of Jubilees and the book of Enoch are attached together. The writer of the book of Jubilees took all of his material from the book of Enoch. Now, the only way that you can know that is if you have investigated it, line by line, precept by precept, here a little, there a little. If you throw out the book of Enoch, throw out the book of Jubilees, throw out the book of Genesis, because they're all the same. Now, who said that these books are apocryphal? That they don't match, or they haven't risen to the level of canon. Who says that this book is not canon or it's apocryphal? Your enemy. You mean to tell me after all the stuff that you hear the brothers saying on the internet, they're still following our enemy? They haven't gone and investigated themselves line by line, precept by precept. They read some commentaries online, and they said that this book is not right. Let me tell you something right now. Your translation that you have, your King James versions, your NIV, all of them are not right. Each one of them have the Europeans putting in their own gods, their own words, their own understanding, twisting the scriptures, taking things away like the so-called apocryphal books, and adding things to it. Now, if you don't know that, you cannot make the statement that the book of Enoch and the book of Jubilees, or even the book of Jasher, are not valid. The persons who said this to you did not want you to find the path that would lead to life. That's why they took these books out. Now we're going to investigate it ourselves. Because in these books, these apocryphal books, as they call them, Jubilees, Enoch, Jasher, here is the clues so that you can find the path of years. Let's begin. Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. Verse 14. And the Mighty One said, Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven, to divide the day from the night. Now, some of our brethren are using Genesis chapter 1, verse 14 to state that the Mighty One created light in verse 14. Do you see anything here about create? He's telling you what he created the lights for. But if you go back to verse 1, you find in the beginning, Yahuwah created the heaven and the earth. Verse 2, it says, Now the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the earth, and the Spirit of the Mighty One hovered over the waters. If his spirit is hovering over the waters, it's already created the heavens and the earth. Then in verse 3, he said, Let there be lights. In other words, he said, turn on the lights. And the lights came on. And there he divided the day from the night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. This is the fourth day, starting in verse 14. I am sure that the people who are reading don't have reading comprehension, or they're just following a commentary, something that someone else said before them. And they just picked it up and ran with it. No investigation. All they had to do was start at verse 1. Now look what he says these lights are created for. And let them. You see, he said them. Did you know that the moon and the sun work together? Did you know that the moon does not have any light? Do you know that the sun transfers light to the moon in 1/2 of a 7th part, which is 1/14th part of light? Every day, 1/14th part of light in 14 days becomes full. And for seasons, how do you find your seasons? It's through the sun. You got 4 seasons, 4 quarters. And for days, how do you find your days? Well, you have 2 ways of counting. One is through the solar, the other is through the lunar. And for years, how do you count your years? There's 2 ways of reckoning. One is solar, one is lunar. Yet, the 2 are still working together. Now, I can guarantee you that the people who came before us don't understand what I'm saying. Maybe you don't even understand what I'm saying. But you had to be out there to observe these events. What else am I saying here? What is chapter 14 stating? Your time is in the sky. If you want to be on the Mighty One's time, his time is in the sky. It's not on a calendar. We have been deceived all of these years looking down at calendars. We don't look up. We look down. Your salvation lies in the sky. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43, verse 7. Listen to this. From the moon is the sign of feast. Do you remember in Genesis it stated, let them be for signs? Well, if you're looking for your feast days, if you're looking for your Sabbaths, the moon is that sign. What feasts are you talking about, Brother David? Well, there's 3 feasts per year, right? Feast of Unleavened Bread, Feast of Weeks, Feast of Tabernacles. The moon gives you the sign of these. All of these feast days are connected to an agricultural event. They were outside at this time. Let me ask the question. Do you think the Mighty One gave them darkness, or did he give them light? Look what it says next. A light that decreaseth in her perfection. So he gave them light. The light has to become full. How does it become full, Brother David? When the moon is full, is it the first day of the month? The only people who would state that are people who are ignorant. The first part of ignorant is ignore. They've ignored nature. They've ignored scripture. They've ignored the heavenly bodies. What qualifies you to teach this if you don't study them? This is heavenly language here. A light that decreaseth in her perfection. That word decreaseth means wane. That means she is full. The word perfection means full, perfectly round, shining, giving light in the evening. And it starts to decrease. Is that the beginning of the month, or is that the middle of the month? Let's see. Let me tell you how the heavenly bodies work. The moon is dark. Then you go out and you look up in the sky. And when first light is shined upon the moon, that is the first day. Light is transferred from the sun to the moon in parts, 1/2 of a 7th part. Each day is 1/14th part of light. After 14 days, the light becomes full. It takes 14 days for the light to be full. That is increasing. Now, once you come to your feast days, which is on the 15th in the month, and it starts from the evening of the 14th, on the 15th day, it begins to wane. That word wane means decrease. That means your numbers, instead of going up, your numbers are going down. 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then it turns dark again. Tell me something. It says, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. So if the feast day, if you gauge your time by counting from the full moon, you're going to come to the dark moon. Do you think Yahuwah gave them darkness instead of light on his feast days? They were out. You had to, on Passover, you had to slay the lamb. They had celebrations. They ate, they drank, they were married, they had parties. You think he gave them darkness or light? They didn't have street lamps and all the things that we have today. This is his day, and he's dictated how he wants it to go. But if you follow the people who start from the full moon, you're going to come to darkness. Then after darkness, the light does not decrease. The light increases. So if the light is increasing, you know you have the wrong day. A light that decreaseth in her perfection. She is full, and she is losing her light. Investigate it, brothers and sisters. It's so easy. Now, the people who are following them and have not investigated this on their own, you are a sheeple. Now, let's look at this illustration. I want to say that we all were sheeple at some point in time. You cannot be sheeple anymore. He's coming very soon. If you don't do the work yourself, these people will lead you astray. This is the language of the heavens. They do not understand. They do not have the spirit of the mighty one. I know this for a true fact, because you cannot make an error this big. This is drastic. Now we're in February. This is the 12th month. All of our Sabbaths are on Sunday. Come straight down the line to Sunday. And you're going to see on the 23rd is the new moon. That's what the Jews call it. When it's dark, they call it new. I don't know how they do that. Most people are so ignorant that they will just follow. Sheeple. It cannot be new if it doesn't have any light. It's new when light is first shined upon it. Dark is not new. But anyway, you see the next day is the 24th. Do you see that slither of light in the 24th? It's going to come out in the evening, dawning towards the 25th. That is your first day. That's when we will begin our count. But the first thing I have to do, I want you to understand this, is that we always look up. Even though we have Moon Giant to search all of these astronomical events, we still have to cite it ourselves and have witnesses and sometimes pull out the toolkit. So if you start your day from the 25th, That'll be New Moon's Day. If you count 14 days, let's see, from the 25th to the 29th, how many days you have? 5 days. Okay, now we come to March. We had 5 days from February, which was the 12th month. Now we count the first week, 7 days. 5 and 7 is 12. 8 is 13. The 14th day would be the 9th in the evening, dawning towards the 10th. If you look at the 10th, you'll see that the moon on the side is starting to lose its light. The 10th would be day 15. That's in the evening. It will start to wane. Remember, the moon comes out at night. So all of these illustrations are speaking of evening time, nighttime. All right, now let's talk about the Israelite brothers. They're going to start their month from the full moon. Remember, it took us 14 days to get here to the full moon. They've bypassed nature. They've bypassed math. They've bypassed the way the heavenly bodies work. So let's do the count with them. If they're starting their day from the 10th, which they are, let's count 14 days. On the first row, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 5 days. In the next line, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 5 and 7 is 12. Then you have the 22nd is 13. The 23rd is 14. In the evening of the 23rd, it's dawning towards the new moon. You know, the new moon is the dark moon because that's what the Jews chose to start their month in darkness. The Israelite brothers are going to have what? Their feast day at the dark moon. I just wanted you to see this. Now remember what Ecclesiasticus said. A light that decreaseth in her perfection. So from the full moon, from that perfection, she starts to wane, decrease. Look at the 25th. Is that decreasing? Look at the 26th. Is that decreasing? Look at the 27th. Is that decreasing? No, it's increasing. But if you start from the 10th, as you see, it's starting to lose its light. Which day do you think is the right one? Is it the one where Yahuwah gave us light? Or is the one what they say he gave us darkness? I rest my case. With this illustration here alone, you know that you are in error. And if you follow these brothers, you're going to follow them to destruction. This is why I say you can listen to all of these people, but you have to investigate them afterwards. Don't you? KJV Dictionary Definition, the word is Abib. It means a swelling, protuberant, to produce the first of early fruit, a full-grown ear of corn. As you noticed, everything is connected with agriculture. Look what KJV Dictionary Definition put on the bottom as an explanation. The first month of the Jewish ecclesiastical year. All right. It is the first month. Not the Jewish ecclesiastical year. Abib is the first month of the Hebrews, the children of Yasharal. Look what's attached to the Jews. Also called Nisan. You know this word Nisan is from Babylon. The Jews are following the Babylonish ways. It begins at the spring equinox. Well, the month of Abib doesn't begin at the spring equinox. I guess it does for the Jews. And answers to the latter part of March and beginning of April. No. The March equinox comes in the 19th, the 20th, and the 21st. It is fixed. It cannot go outside of that. It comes in at the same time every year. But why are we saying the 19th, the 20th, or the 21st? Because they add leap years to the calendar. So they've thrown everything off. It does not begin in April. This is another deception. Here, let me explain something to you. If you're going to play in this game of life, if you're going to pass this test, the test is whether or not you will gravitate back towards Yahuwah and seek him with all your heart, mind, and soul. You have to know everyone's position. I don't care whose position it comes up, whether it be the people who follow the Jews, the Israelite brothers, those who follow the solar calendar, the lunar calendar. I can explain everyone's position from the starting to the ending. If you're not able to do that, you have to learn. Your salvation is in your own hands. I'm giving you all of the clues so that you can find the answers to all of your queries. Haven't you been asking all of these questions for years? But you have to seek it out. But I understand it's not for everyone. Many are called. Few are chosen. I know for a surety I'm one of the chosen ones, because the Father reveals all of this to me. Jubilees, chapter 6, verse 30 to 32. Now I just started from 30, because this is relevant to our study for today. It would be prudent for you to read the context. Maybe after I finish this lesson, you will understand what Noah is talking about. Verse 30. And all the days of the commandment will be 52 weeks of days. Okay, so your entire year is 52 weeks. And these will make the entire year complete. Thus it is engraved and ordained on the heavenly tablets. So in heaven, Yahuwah ordained that the weeks would be 52. Verse 31. And there is no neglecting this commandment for a single year or from year to year. Verse 32. And command you, the children of Yasharol. Did he say command the Jews? They are converts. They admit to that. Did he say command the Christians? No, he didn't. Did he say command any other people on the planet? Only the children of Yasharol, us. He's only speaking to us about this deception that we have fallen into. And command you, the children of Yasharol, that they observe the years according to this reckoning, 364 days. Did he say 365? How do we get 365 days? It's on that Gregorian calendar. And these will constitute a complete year. 364, 365. 364. And they will not disturb its time from its days, from its feasts. So you mean to tell me, if I add a day to 364 and make it 365, did I disturb it? Yes, you did. Look what's going to happen. For everything will fall out in them according to their testimony. And they will not leave out any day nor disturb any feast. If you add a day to the 364, You have disturbed the feast. Verse 33. But if they do neglect and do not observe them according to his commandment, if who do neglect? The children of Yasharal, not the Jews, not the Europeans. He's only talking to us here. Then they will disturb all their seasons. How is the seasons dictated? Starts from the spring equinox by the sun. You have 4 seasons every year. Each quarter is 91 days. Each month, 3 months, 30 days apiece, plus 1 intercalary day. If you add 4 times 91, you will have 364 days. And the years, 364 days, will be dislodged from this order, and they will disturb the seasons. And the years will be dislodged, and they will neglect their ordinances. Remember, this is on the heavenly tablets the book of Jubilees is talking about. Do you know that the book of Jubilees is saying the exact same thing that the book of Enoch is saying? Where did the author of Jubilees get his information from? The book of Enoch. Jubilees came way after. Okay, let's see if it's been dislodged. How many days do we have a year? 365. When do we start our year? Do we start our year from the spring equinox? Or do we start our year in January? In the middle of the winter? How does that work, brothers and sisters? Everything has been twisted in the lands of our captivity. We're living in the matrix. You have to find your way back to Yahuwah. He has sent you here. This will dictate who is for him and who is against him. He only has one way for you to follow. He's put these orbs, these machines in the sky for you to see so that you'll know what time that you should be on. If you're going to discover his Sabbaths, his feast days, his ways, you have to look up. Verse 34. And all the children of Yasharal will forget. Did he say some? He said all. And will not find the path of the years. How will they not find the path of the years? Because everything has been dislodged from the order. The only way that you can come back is to seek it out. Look what they'll forget. The new months. How are the months dictated? Don't you have to look up in the sky? Don't you have to observe the moon? Well, we observe the moon when it comes to the feast days. But listen to this crazy behavior. Then after we've observed the moon and found our feast days, then we go back to the Gregorian calendar to find the Sabbaths. What are we going to forget also? The seasons. Remember, I just told you, 4 seasons, 91 days each, 1 intercalary day, 4 days per year for each one of the seasons, 364 days when you add it to the 360, and Shabbats. Okay, here we are. Tell me something. All of us are following. Well, most of us have made it out now who are following the calendar in the sky, but our brothers and our sisters are still following the Sabbaths of the Jews. It's on the Gregorian calendar. None of the Sabbaths that we are following, which is that fixed Saturday Sabbath, they're not in the sky. Remember what Yahuwah created these orbs for. Remember it says for days? Don't you have to count 6 working days to the Sabbath? So if you go on the Gregorian calendar, You're not following Yahuwah's calendar. You're following the calendar of the Gentiles. And they will go wrong as to all the order of years. Is that true? Yes, it is. Verse 35. For I know, and from henceforth will I declare it unto you. And it is not of mine own devising. Look at the author of Jubilees, what he is trying to say. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm not coming from the imagination of my own mind. For the book is written before me. This is Enoch speaking, brothers and sisters. And on the heavenly tablets, the division of days is ordained. He's the only one that was taken up in that spacecraft and taught by the angels how the heavenly bodies work. Lest they forget the feast of the covenant. Have we done that? Yes, we have. And walk according to the feast of the Gentiles, after their error and after their ignorance. Now, he's talking about us. We're the ones who have been taken into captivity. We're the ones who have been stripped of our heritage and all knowledge of our ancestry. The only thing we know is how to walk according to the people who captured us. 400 years. It's been wiped out. But look, these books are written for a righteous race that would return to him in the last days. That's why he gave it to us. That's why they took Jubilees, the book of Enoch. They took them out because it explains how to get back to Yahuwah. We have been following the Gentiles' ignorance. Guess what ignorance they're talking about? You see in the word ignorance, it's ignore, the first part of it, the prefix, ignore. We have ignored the order of things. Do you see it? We've been following those who are not even a people. They've led us into error. Now it's time for you to seek this thing out for yourself. Verse 36. Do you know that this is one of the most misunderstood verses that are being taught by the unlearned and the unstable? They don't know what they're reading. They just make things up. Do you know what they use this passage for? To try to say that you shouldn't start your month from the new moon. But because they have no reading comprehension, because they have not matched it to Scripture, because they're not even out there making observations, they will never know. Let's see. For there will be those who will assuredly make observations of the moon. Okay, so they're going to look up, they're going to look at the moon and how it works. They're going to see how it disturbs the seasons. What does that mean by disturb the seasons? How are the seasons dictated? By the sun. It comes in at the spring equinox, the vernal equinox. How is it going to disturb these seasons, Brother David? It's going to come in from year to year 10 days too soon. What's going to come in from year to year 10 days too soon? The moon. So in other words, the moon is going to come in 10 days before the spring equinox. Look on the bottom. In March 2019, equinox happens on March 20th at 3:50 UTC, which is on March 19th at 10:50 p.m. Central Daylight Time for us in the central U.S. So the equinox can be anywhere from March 19th to March 21st. It can only be on one day, can't be on all. But why do they have to spread it out between 3 days? because your calendar has not 364. It has 365. What else do? They also give you leap days. So it can be anywhere between March 19th and March 21st. Now, when you come to something like this that is hard to be understood, you have to find the passage that is attached to Jubilees that would lead you to the truth. Let's see if we can find it. ENOCH Chapter 74. The book of Enoch was written for the righteous race that would arise in these last days, that would gravitate back towards Yahuwah and keep his ways. It's why it was put here. It is encrypted. It is only for the chosen ones. You are privileged just to see this information. Everyone who dismisses the book of Enoch are not a part of that righteous race. Your answer to Jubilees, chapter 6, verse 36, is right here in chapter 74. Let's begin. And the overplus of the sun and the stars amount to 6 days. Every year there's 6 days. Overplus. In 5 years, 6 days every year come to 30 days. 5 times 6 is 30. And the 12th moon falls behind the sun and stars to the number of 30 days. So the moon falls behind the sun. And the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly. What brings in your years? The sun and the stars. When does it begin? The spring equinox, when the sun is directly over the equator, so that they do not advance or delay their position by a single day unto eternity. They never fail. They never change. But complete the years with perfect justice in 364 days. How many days did Jubilees state that a year is? 364 days, 52 weeks. Where did the book of Jubilees get their information? From the book of Enoch. In 3 years, pull out your pen and paper. There are 1,092 days. 3 times 364 equals 1,092. And in 5 years, 1,820 days. So in 5 years, 5 times 364, 1,820. So that in 8 years, there are 2,912 days. Now remember this flow. It told you 3 years, tells you how many days. 5 years, tells you how many days. 8 years, tells you how many days. I want you to notice the deception when we get to it. This is what your enemy, how he's trying to keep you from understanding what is happening here. For the moon. Now we're talking about the days of the moon. Did you know that the days of the moon are different from the days of the sun? You're going to find that out right now. For the moon alone, the days amount to 3 years. 1,062 days. 3 goes into 1,062 days 3 times. Each time is 354 days. 3 times 354 days equals 1,062 days. Are you with me so far? And in 5 years, she falls behind 50 days. So in 5 years, each year she loses 10 days, i.e., in other words, to the sum of 1,700 and 70. There is 5 to be added. That's 5 years to be added, or 2 years to be added to that 1,062, which will make 5. And in 5 years, there are 1,770 days. Add that up. 5 times 354. So that for the moon, the days 6 stop. Here's your deception. This is where they're trying to confuse you. And he put a lie in here. Because your enemy does not want you to understand. Remember, this is a translation. They know. They changed it because they don't want you to know. So that for the moon, the 6 days, there is no 6 to be here. Do you see that? Look up where it says, so that in 8 years for the sun is 2,912 days. There's no 6 added. Okay, let's continue. The moon, the days in 8 years, that's how it should read, no 6, amount to 21,832. That's a lie. Look in parentheses. 8 times 354 equals 2,832. Is it some kind of typo? Is it some type of mistake? Can they add? Yes, they can add. They want to confuse you. For in 8 years, she falls behind to the amount of 80 days. Okay. So we know 8 years is 2,832. And in 8 years, it falls behind 80 days, which is 10 days each year. Here's the next deception. Look. All the 17 days, there is no 17. What are you talking about, 17? Take out the 17. All the days she falls behind in 8 years are 80. All you have to do is look at how the sun works, and you come back down to the moon. You see they added that 6 in there, and they added a 17 in there. They gave you a false calculation of 21,832, which should be 2,832. If you had your pen and your paper out, you could have added up 8 times 354. You would have got 2,832. So it repeated itself. Let's take out the 17. All the days she falls behind in 8 years are 80. You got that? And the year is accurately completed in conformity. These two are working together with their world stations. There is a pronoun. Describes a person, place, or thing. What are we describing here? The working of two bodies. You have the working of the sun. You have the working of the moon. And the stations of the sun which rise from the portals through which the sun rises and sets 30 days. What portal is that? Rises in the east. Every 30-day period. What rises with the sun? The moon. Okay, now, look at what just happened. How many days in a solar year? 364. Why didn't they tell you 354 here for the moon, the lunar years? You have to add this stuff up for yourself. When you add it up, it comes to 354. How many days shorter? Subtract 354 from 364. How many days you have? 10 days. How many days does the moon come out too soon? 10 days too soon. Now let's check out the astronomers. Let's see if they're in agreement with ENOCH Chapter 74. You can find this lunar calendar, Wikipedia. Jump to length of the lunar month. Month comes from the word moon. Since the period of 12 such lunations, 12 months, a lunar year is only 354 days. Look at how our Father hid this information for us. He was using equations like 1,062, 1,770, 2,832. Only those of the righteous race that would arise in the last days would come and figure this thing out and gravitate back towards Yahuwah. Is this perfect? Okay, since if you don't believe that it's perfect, if you add 10 days to the 354, what do you get? 364. When does the year, the solar year, begin? Not in 354 days, 364 days. So the moon came in how many days too soon? 10. How do they mess a people up? They change things. They start their days from 12 midnight instead of from the evening. Then they put all of this stuff on calendars, and that's what you follow. The only calendar that you can follow is in the sky. If you follow that, you can never go wrong. It will never take you out of Yahuwah's time. He's the one who set it in motion, put it in order. Look at this. Purely lunar calendars lose around 11 days per year relative to the Gregorian calendar. Brother David, didn't Jubilees say that the moon comes in from year to year, 10 days too soon? Why do they have 11 days here? Because the Gregorian calendar has 365 days. That's why it becomes 11 days too soon. I hope you guys are starting to see this. Now let's return back to Jubilees chapter 6, verse 37. Look at what they're going to do. Verse 37. For this reason, what reason is he speaking of? Because the moon came in before the sun 10 days too soon, the years will come upon them when they disturb, change the order, and make an abominable day, an abomination, the day of testimony, and an unclean day, a feast day. If you change the order, let me give you some examples so that you can understand what I'm saying. If you try to bring the moon in after the sun, if you try to start your month from the full moon instead of the renewed moon, you're going to make that day abominable. Watch who you're following. And they, who's the they? The children of Yasharal, right? Will confound, confuse all the days. Is that correct? If you start your month and you start your month from the spring equinox, if you're following a sun calendar, like some of the people are doing, you're going to confuse all the days. Look what you're going to do. You're going to make the set apart days with the unclean and the unclean day with the set apart. Look what it says. For they will go wrong as to the months. How is the months dictated? Month means moon. So they won't see the months, especially if you're following a solar calendar. You won't see the months. You have confused the days. You've made that day an unclean day. And the Sabbaths. What dictates your Sabbaths? Is it a sun calendar? Is it the Gregorian calendar? Is it any calendar? The only calendar that you can follow that is going to be accurate is in the sky for all the world to see, and no one can be confused. And the feast, the moon, is the sign of feasts. And Jubilees. What is a Jubilee? 49 to 50 year period? 49 to 50 year period? If it's year, how is it dictated? By the sun. Verse 38. For this reason, listen, children of Yasharal, I command and testify to you, that you may testify to them. I'm speaking to my brothers, all of those who are all over the world. For after your death, your children will disturb them. They're going to change the order so that they will not make the year 364 days only. Well, we're at 365 right now. And for this reason, they will go wrong as to the new months. Find that through the moon. And seasons. Listen to this. The seasons are dictated by the sun. How many seasons are there? 4. 91 days each quarter. The seasons are in quarters. 3 30-day months plus a day. You add that 91 times 4. You get 364, accurate to the letter. And Sabbaths. Hold it 1 second. How is the Sabbaths dictated? By the moon. The Sabbaths in the sky have 4 quarters. Each quarter has 7 days. So your seasons have 4 quarters. Your Sabbaths have 4 quarters. Do you see what I'm trying to tell you here? If you look up in the sky and you find these lunar events, you cannot go wrong. It is the only thing that is going to be accurate for you. If you're going to be on Yahuwah's time, you have to look up. And festivals, those are his feast days, you know. How do you find them? The moon is the sign of feast. Do you see how twisted everything that we know are today? Do you realize right now, just from what I'm showing you, that we're living in the Matrix? Brother David is on the outside looking in. He's watching everyone walk around chasing their tail. All of the information is right here before you. But the problem is that you would rather follow the Europeans, the Jews, or the Israelite brothers. Maybe even those who say that it's the solar calendar, the book of Enoch, the book of Jubilees. They do not separate the two. They're working in perfect synchronicity to bring your years in perfectly. It brings your months in perfectly. What about your Sabbaths? Perfect. What about your feast days? Perfect. What about your Jubilees? Perfect if you look up. But if you look down on that calendar, or any calendar that these men have created, you will definitely go wrong. And they will eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh. Have we done that? Yes. Go to the steakhouse. I want my steak medium rare. The blood's dripping in the plate. And you got some A1 sauce or some Worcestershire sauce. and the blood is mixing all with the sauces, and you take your little steak after you cut it and you mingle it in with the blood and then you eat it. Where did we learn this from? Our enemies. These books are accurate. To discount them is a travesty of justice. Who took them out of our book? Who are the ones who are telling you that you're not even to look at these books? The Europeans, the Jews, and the Israelite brothers said you're not supposed to look at Enoch. Haven't you seen, just by what I've just showed you, that the book of Enoch and the book of Jubilees are perfectly synchronized together? How can you discount that? Hey, the book of Enoch, the book of Jubilees, thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. How did they know this? Yahuwah revealed it to them. What did the Europeans say about these books? They're not canon. They don't match our deception that we have created. So we're going to take them out because we have to continue to fool the children of Yasharal. As long as we keep them stupid, we can still rule. Once they wake up, our time is done. Look at this, brothers and sisters. March equinox, equal day and night, nearly. There are 2 equinoxes every year. In March, the 19th through the 21st, and September, the 22nd to the 23rd, when the sun shines directly on the equator, and the length of night and day are nearly equal. Do you remember our Feast of Tabernacles this year? Came out in the evening of the 14th. It lasted for how many days? 8. 7 days for the feast, and then the 8th day is also a Sabbath. No work is to be done. What came in first? The renewed moon, right? We found our feast days. And that first full moon is the harvest moon. In September. Were we on time? Remember, the Feast of Tabernacles is connected to a harvest. Everything that we're doing, as far as following the lunar events in the sky and keeping Yahuwah's time, works out perfectly. If you follow the Jews, if you follow the Israelite brothers, if you follow the church or the Europeans, you're going to be a co-defendant in their ignorance. They ignore the truth. They always accept a lie. There's probably some of them who are listening to my voice today and they're saying, this brother don't know what he's talking about. Even though I've showed all the facts. Do you know why they say that? Because they want to hold on to the lie. Most of us came from the church. Do you remember how we defended that lie until Yahuwah awakened us? The Mighty One is awakening you right now. He's telling you how his time works. Not the feast of the Jews, not the feast of the Israelite brothers, not the feast of the church. Let me ask you something. Is your pastor, your leader, is he your God? Is he your mighty one? Because the only reason that you don't need to check on a person who is teaching you is that you believe that they're your God. If you haven't checked on them, you have validated your position because you put your trust in a man. You put your trust in Yahuwah. You investigate men. The scripture is your template, not the imagination of men's minds. Look on the bottom. March equinox in Kissimmee, Florida. That's where I'm at. USA is on Thursday, March 19th, 2020 at 11:49 p.m. EDT. So it can be anywhere from the 19th, the 20th, or the 21st. March 20th at 11:49 basically is the 20th, isn't it? According to the Europeans. Why do I say that? Because they start their time, their day at what time? 12 midnight. Have we been lunatics all these years? We know who they are now. They are the others. How can they teach us? You will listen to them. You will throw out all of the evidence that Yahuwah has given to us so that we can find the path. And you will gravitate towards the Gentiles, the other humans. Are we still lunatics? Did we make it this far out of the church through all of the stumbling blocks that was placed before us, and then we get here, and then we're going to do the same thing that we did that led us in error in the church? You know what that is? We did not check everything out. Wake up, brothers and sisters. Dates for the vernal equinox from 2015 to 2025. Just to show you, the equinox comes in about the same time every year. Vernal equinox, March 20, 2020, 2020, 2020, 2020. Why did they put all 20 straight down from 2015 to 2025? Because it can come in on the 19th, the 20th, or the 21st. So what did they do? They came in the middle to give you that date to say that this is when it will come in. But it can come in either the 19th, the 20th, or the 21st. You can't look up in the sky and say, oh, here it is. Doesn't work that way. But what can you look up in the sky and say, oh, here's the first day? The moon. The vernal equinox is one of 4 days. There's 4 intercalary days. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The vernal equinox is one of 4 days, 2 equinoxes, and 2 solstices throughout the year that mark the beginning of a season. The other days are the summer solstice, beginning of summer, and the autumnal equinox, beginning of autumn, and the winter solstice, the beginning of winter. In a non-leap year, look at that. See, you're going to have leap years too. This is all the stuff that the Europeans do to try to keep the time going so that they can mask the error. The moment of the vernal equinox is about 5 hours, 49 minutes after the moment in the previous year. And in a leap year, it is about 18 hours, 11 minutes before that moment in the previous year. In this way, the time of the vernal equinox constantly shifts back and forth, so it always stays on or around March 20th. Do you see what I'm saying, brothers and sisters? How they're trying to manipulate time in order to make it come in on the season or the place where they wanted to come in. This is why the moon is the sign of your feast. The moon is the sign of your Sabbaths. Now, there are people out there who are solar calendar followers, and they believe that their feast days and everything is dictated by the solar calendar. And yet, some of them still go back to the Gregorian calendar to keep their Sabbaths. It is just the craziest thing that you can imagine. They've dismissed with the moon, and they're just following the solar calendar. Hey, we've learned through nature. We've learned through observation. We've learned through the book that the moon is the sign of your feast, a light that waneth in its perfection. The moon is what dictates your Sabbaths. 4 quarters, 4 Sabbaths. Hey, it's not on the calendar. Guess where it is? In the sky. The word equinox is derived from Latin and means equal night. On the day of an equinox, day and night are of approximately equal length all over the world. As the Earth's rotational axis is neither tilted away from nor towards the sun. At all other times, the length of day and night will be different. No matter where you go, you're going to find this. If you study astronomy, the moon is going to fall behind the sun. It's going to lose time. That's a fact. You see what it says about the Earth's rotational axis? Do you know if you take away the moon from the equation that the Earth will just be in chaos? Earthquakes, floods. Did you know that? That's how important the moon is. Its gravitational pull keeps us grounded. The date of the vernal equinox is significant in Christianity as it is important for the calculation of Easter, the worship of the goddess Istra. Do you remember when we were following the feast of the church, of Christianity? Did you know they start from the solar calendar now? As decreed by the Council of Nicaea in AD 325. Man, they did a lot of wickedness in AD 325, didn't they? Constantine the Great. Easter always falls on the first Sunday after the first full moon that occurs on or after the vernal equinox. However, by convention, Christian churches have fixed the ecclesiastical date to March 21st. They're always fixing something, and they're always in error, and base all calculations on this date, even, listen to this, if the astronomical date differs. They don't care if the sun, the vernal equinox, the spring equinox comes in on the 19th. They say, we're going to make it the 21st. They have nothing to do with our Father. Our Father has his time, and their Father has their time. Whose time are you going to be on? Yahuwah's time is in the sky. All you have to do is look up. Let me show you something else here. As decreed by Council of Nicaea in AD 325. Do you know why they set this date, this Easter? Why they start their year from the vernal equinox, from the solar calendar? Because they worship the sun god. Do you know what the sun god's name is? His name is Christos. Christos. Sounds like Krishna. We know it today as Christ. Are you united in Christ? Let me ask you the question. Are you united in the sun God? Is Israel united in the sun God? Yasharal isn't. We are united in Yahuwah. He's the one who united us together. He took the initiative. He sent his messenger. Who gets the credit? Yahuwah. Who provided the sacrifice? Yahuwah. Who united us? Yahuwah. Not Christ. Then we have another one. It's called Gathering of Christ Church. Wow. We're in trouble, brothers and sisters, because our people have no knowledge. And when our people have no knowledge, you can get people who can come in and say anything and you believe it because they make it sound so good. So it's the gathering of Christos, the sun god's church, a building. Because that's what church means. Kyriakon, it means a building, structure. Doesn't mean a people. Ecclesia means called out ones. They replace ecclesia, the called out ones, the children of Yasharal, with church. So the person who's going to be gathering the sun god's building is who? The sun god himself. Has nothing to do with Yahuwah, brothers and sisters. This is how deceived that we have been. Now it's time for us to wake up. The only reason that a person would be upset over what I just said, because their true master and their leader is their pastors. That's their gods. They will defend these lies with all of their heart, mind, and soul. Isaiah chapter 55, verse 8 to 9. My master is about to speak to you. Verse 8. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith Yahuwah. Did he make the Gregorian calendar? That is a question. The answer is no. Did he fix the Saturday Sabbath? The answer is no. Did he say to start your month from the spring equinox? He did not. How does he show you how his ways work? It's in the sky. It's in the book. Enoch, Jubilees, Genesis, Jasher. So, who are you following? Your God must be your pastor, your mighty one. Your master, it's got to be your pastor, your leader, because you didn't check them out. You're not even looking for Yahuwah's ways. You're just following men. Verse 9. For as the heavens are higher than the earth. Look what he's saying. If you're on the earth and the heavens are higher, in order for you to observe the heavens, what do you have to do? Look up. So are my ways higher than your ways. You cannot understand them. So therefore, because you don't understand them, You follow the Europeans, the Jews, the Israelite brothers, instead of asking him to reveal his truth to you. That's what I did. I followed no commentary. I read every book myself, compared scripture to scripture, went out there and observed for almost 2 years now. It's the only way. Can't cut any corners here. Your salvation is at stake. And my thoughts? Then your thoughts. Did you see those calculations in the book of Enoch? Could you have ever thought that way? He's got the moon coming in 10 days too soon. The sun's coming in 10 days later. The sun dictates the seasons. The moon dictates the months. The moon is the sign of feasts. I mean, who would have ever thought of something like this? Only Yahuwah. He has angelic beings controlling those bodies that are in the heaven. Read the book of Enoch from 72 straight on through. And you're going to find out the names of the angels that are controlling those stations. You're going to also find out the name of the sun, Oyades. It has more than one name, too. You're going to find out the name of the moon, Osanya. The sun is going to transfer the light to it. Have you ever heard the analogy that they used to say about the watchmaker? Look at the watch. The watch is basically, the base is your sun, and it has numbers on it. And the moon is your hands. In order for you to have accurate time to point to what time it is, you need the hands, don't you? Now take away the hands from the watch. You still have a fully functional watch. It has the numbers on it, but there's nothing to point towards the time. Yahuwah is the watchmaker in heaven. He's showing you how this thing works. You can't separate the two. If you do, you will be in error. Now, brothers and sisters, this is the prerequisite to the Passover video. You have a week to study all of this information. Then when the Passover video comes out, you'll know how to make your calculations. I advise for all of the users who want to learn his ways, go out, learn the positions, learn the portals. Take the book of Enoch. Take each chapter, and as you read it, match it to the lunar solar events, and you will be convinced the same way I am. And for those who follow a solar calendar, wake up. Stop it. It doesn't make sense. If you follow a solar calendar, it will dictate your years, but it doesn't point you to Yahuwah's Sabbaths or his feasts. You have to do it the way prescribed. Shalom, brothers and sisters.